core memory for so many people, and not just in India, but that serial's been translated into, dubbed into so many languages. I get fan mail from all over the Middle East and all over Asia. That did set the tone as far as being a British negative character. That is still like the majority, probably 60% of the roles I do. But for even living here as a lifestyle, so I could be. I could now be seen, in different roles like that, an alternative lifestyle person. So for me, it was, it all came together that I was somehow the stars aligned, and it was all meant to be, the way it happened. So I'm quite previous work and his just up and comingness as a young director in the industry anticipated. I really came with very little, preconceived notions and expectations. That's generally how I try and approach everything. And it was fun seeing them learn to adjust to.
Hello to all the V4U Media viewers. In this special conversation with us today, we have actor Edward Sonnenblick with us. Vanakkam.
Vanakkam, Paras.
And welcome to Chennai.
Thank you so much.
So happy to have met you, and today we are having this interaction.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. So my very first memory of yours has to be Jhansi Ki Rani, because I was a school-going kid, and that was my most favorite show.
Yeah.
And watching you play that British officer who was always, in that cat and mouse race with Manu, and then you going against her and giving her those tough times, and that antagonist role of yours was something that etched a memory in my heart. And after that, like with every appearance of yours in films and in other advertisements and daily soaps, I was like so excited to watch you play that bad guy. So today you've come a really long way, like 15 plus years in the industry with some amazing roles, amazing films, and after RRR you have another magnum opus in the making with Captain Miller.
Oh yeah.
So how do you look at your journey, like way back from 2008-9 to 2024?
Right. Well, thank you so much. It always means a lot to me when people tell me about how they watched Jhansi Ki Rani and my characters back then, and how they watched as kids and their whole family just hated me and everything. I mean, that means a lot that even today, that still is a core memory for so many people, and not just in India, but that serial's been translated into, dubbed into so many languages. I get fan mail from all over the Middle East and all over Asia and Africa. So it has a special place in my heart. It always will. And it's really where I cut my teeth in the Indian entertainment industry, where, I would show up on set, I would get my lines in Hindi Devanagari script, right then, and then just have to give the scene right there. Now, I had been studying Hindi already, like before I ever came to India, so I was ready for this. In fact, I had been preparing for just this kind of work for a couple years already before we started work on Jhansi Ki Rani. So it was really a very auspicious start for me. It was very difficult work, working on a daily soap day after day, and in a main role. It's long hours. There's a lot of unpredictability. The conditions are not so great. But I loved it because that is what I had come to India to do. And I really learned a lot very fast about how to give the shots and how to move on and how to just make it work. And TV is a very interesting medium because it's really the actor's medium, because the director doesn't have time to do a lot of direction. So when you have decided what you're going to do, usually that's what they have to deal with. They don't have a lot of time to keep trying to do retakes and all that. So I was able to use that to my advantage and create something that has just meant a lot to a lot of people. I just love that people tell me, "Gosh, we hated you so much," and that means I did my job.
Right.
So yeah, the journey since then has involved mostly films, and now in the last several years more OTT, web series, and all of that. So, but starting at the ground level with a hardcore hit TV series was a good start, like I said. And since then, like, it's been just one new thing after another.
One after the other.
Yeah,
right.
but that did set the tone as far as being a British negative character. That
Right.
is still like the majority, probably 60% of the roles I do. But more and more now, people are understanding that I have more range than that, and there's a lot more opportunities coming.
So did you at any point in life think that this is kind of too boring after a point, because you play that typical British officer who's against the main hero and then he gives him a tough time and all of that, by any point in time? Or you really love playing, okay, I'm that typical British officer, like in every film I'm playing that one important guy,
Yeah.
one important part. How was that for you, like playing that same typical kind of a role?
Right. I know. People do wonder, like, do you get tired of doing the same kinds of characters? And for me, it just presents a challenge, to how do I keep it fresh? How do I, add something different to each role? Even when the directors may be asking me to do the same old thing that they
Right.
want to see, which is what they've seen me do in the past at some other time, but really, it's an actor's job to take what they've been given and make it authentic and make it as interesting as possible for them, and therefore it will be for the audience. So I take it as a challenge like that, and I also do enjoy doing other kinds of roles. Like I said, it's very heartening what I see happening more and more. I'm getting different kinds of roles that aren't either British or so negative either. I played Lord Mountbatten. I mean, not necessarily a hero in India, but certainly not an evil villain. And I played a rather small role for Meghna Gulzar in Sam Bahadur.
Sam Bahadur, right.
But coming up, there's a amazing web series with K.K. Menon called The Union of India. It's coming this year. And I play Lord Mountbatten with him as VP Menon, as Lord Mountbatten's assistant. And there again, it's not about being some melodramatic kind of villain. It's about just being a real person. In this case, someone who was a real person. So there's that. I played a Russian character in Jubilee last year for Vikramaditya Modvani's web series, which was an amazing show, and it was just fabulous to work with him and that team, and be just a Russian diplomat in the 50s that's working with the Bollywood industry at that time.
Right.
So there's always new things to explore, and I have a lot of faith that that'll continue happening in the Hindi industry, and now very soon I think also the Tamil creative minds will see that there's that scope that I have as well, and they'll start thinking of ways to use me. I mean, there's more than just, there's more to foreigners in India than just the colonial past, right?
Right, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I mean, and today you've got so much business happening internationally. You've got so many people coming to India, and like in Oroville, and stuff people are looking to India for inspiration, for even living here as a lifestyle. So I could be. I could now be seen, in different roles like that, an alternative lifestyle person or a business person or anything, not even necessarily a bad guy.
Yes. So speaking about the bad guy, like going back to Jhansi Ki Rani, like you had mentioned just like as we were having this conversation, that scripts and lines were given to you in Devanagari. So us being a native speaker, like we speak Hindi, Tamil and the other languages, we find it difficult reading it in our mother tongue. How did you manage to get those lines right in Devanagari? And I think serials, daily soaps, they work in a way that it's all done on the spot. Like you don't come prepared with your lines and all of that, and then all of a sudden there's some change, they write it down and they give it to you, and these are your lines, you're going for a take and all of that. So tell us about that process, because that as a spectator, I feel it's quite challenging. So you being an actor, being part of the process, how was that for you?
Right. Well, part of my journey to India involved, most people who have seen any interviews with me, they know that when I saw this movie Lagan, it was my first Bollywood movie I'd ever seen, just hit me over the head, changed my life because I loved it so much. I'd never seen anything like it. I started watching a lot of Bollywood movies and other Indian movies, but especially Bollywood, and I realized I need to learn Hindi. I started teaching myself Hindi. I found a book and a CD, and so I had to learn the Devanagari script as I was learning Hindi. I didn't have anyone to, have conversations with or anything. So I just had to use this book, which was making me read the Devanagari script. So I had to learn it, which was a good thing actually, because when I came to India and started working in the industry, it turns out I really needed to actually have that skill. So for me, it was it all came together that I was somehow the stars aligned and it was all meant to be, the way it happened. So I'm quite grateful that I had some Hindi Devanagari reading experience before I got here.
Amazing. So you being a linguist, what do you find very fascinating about the languages in India?
Yeah, I think it's just an amazing country because really it's just like Europe basically, which is, a continent with a whole bunch of different countries.
Right.
And each country is about the size of an Indian state and has its own, primary language, like an Indian state, and its own culture and traditions and cuisine and all of that. But I think, for one reason or another, and certainly, the British Raj is certainly responsible, it ended up being one nation under one flag. And so I find that the diversity in the languages makes India just like, it's just, I could live my whole life here and just feel like, every time I travel to another state, it's like going to another country. And I really appreciate that. And I really admire how Indians, find that unity and Indian identity within so much diversity. I think, the rest of the world has a lot to learn about, how to do that. I mean, so many Americans are all, speaking the same language, have a very similar makeup. I mean, in America is a country of immigrants also, but even the Anglo-Saxon white Protestant majority, or what was once a majority, they can't agree on anything culturally or anything. And here you've got Indians that identify as Indians. From Srinagar to Kanyakumari, it's India, and I just love that as a concept.
Coming back to Captain Miller, so you've been part of some big, great films, magnum opuses in the past. So what was that one convincing factor that made you decide that, okay, I'm going to be part of Captain Miller?
Right. Well, after being in Triple
R
R
and all of that,
and then seeing like what a reception it got, and then once I saw what they were doing with in Captain Miller and Arun Mateshwaran's previous work and his just up and comingness as a young director in the industry, he his work really, I think, was a big factor, as well as just what I had seen of the quality that they were doing by the time I was brought on board. I felt like, okay, these guys are doing the same level of work. They have the same vision of pan-India and global reach, and this is definitely something that I want to be a part of, and just let me know what I can do. I really had a lot of faith and trust in this project before I even knew much about it.
Okay. So before you came on set and you then had your scenes with Dhanush and all of them, you definitely would have some preconceived notions about the team or about the lead actor. Did that ever change after being part of the film? Because mostly what happens is you get to know, okay, he's playing the lead or he's directing the film. You would have heard stories about them from people and then had some thoughts in mind, and then once you go on set, you meet them, you tend to interact with them, that entire perspective changes. Did that ever happen with Captain Miller?
Yeah, I think the set was more relaxed than perhaps I had anticipated. I really came with very little, preconceived notions and expectations. That's generally how I try and approach everything. So I wasn't expecting one thing or the other too much, but, when you're entering a film with such a huge star, like Dhanush, and such a venerable production house like Satyajyoti, it's you're gonna wonder how intense is it gonna be? Is it gonna be comfortable for everyone? And it really was an experience that I'll always treasure, because the staff, the technical staff, and the production staff, and everyone taking care of me and the other artists, as well as the direction team, is all very collaborative, very open. There wasn't that intense formality that you sometimes get with, you know, with very senior artists and technicians and all of that. We just were all a team getting something done together. And it really had that team spirit throughout. And everybody's working really hard, really passionate. And so I just really vibe with that kind of attitude. So it was pretty easy for me to vibe. And yeah, Dhanush is a total professional. He comes on set. He's such a big star. He comes on set with his whole entourage. He's got a lot of people. You don't even know why so many people are around somebody, but that's how it is when you're a star. They have their reasons. But of course, you know, once I'm working with him and we're doing our scene and all that, he's extremely human. He's extremely humble, and he's very kind, and he's very willing to collaborate and work and talk things out. And I really enjoyed working with him.
So, what was one takeaway from Captain Miller as an actor?
One takeaway as an actor, I would say, it's very important to prepare. As an actor, everybody knows, and I did do that. But one thing that really was driven home from this project is that also be flexible, be prepared for anything when you walk onto set, because no matter how, you know, much you have studied your scene and the lyrics and the
dialogues and the lines,
the sides that you were given, by the time you get to the set, you know, the direction team might have had a conversation and just decided to change a few things or a lot of things, and you need to be prepared for that and trust that, you know, there's a good reason, and you just need to go with it. So, you know, I think that's something that I see foreign actors that I've worked with before, especially ones that have a lot of experience in you know, in Hollywood or in the UK. Like I worked with Alison Doody and Ray Stevenson in Triple R, right? And it was fun seeing them learn to adjust to a more spontaneous way of filmmaking, you know, getting your lines right away sometimes just before you got to shoot and all that. And, you know, I was able to kind of, you know, explain to them that, you know, this is how it works. We have our reasons, and it just really started to feel at home there, and just enjoyed, you know, spending time in the temples and going on walks. And the rains continued and continued, so you just didn't know if you were going to shoot from time to time. But I think you do a little different, you know, even when it seems like, you know, I love the villains that you can identify with. You know, the villains that really are just, you know, just doing the best they can. Amir, bro, let's talk. All right, I think you got to see Captain Miller, and you'll see what I'm talking about because of the weather.
Okay.
So it's that's 3, right?
Yeah.
And
3.
these are all big ones, I gotta say. Before I came to India, no, I didn't imagine. I might have started to dream just before I came, you know, that maybe that was possible. Brilliance and acumen, you know, from every team, from the effects to the, you know, this is when I first saw Captain Miller. You know, I was this